The world's most powerful currency isn't being attacked. It's being quietly bypassed.
President Donald Trump's policies are having a major impact on the American currency.
There is a number that should stop you in your tracks. $6.5 trillion. That's how much money changes hands every single day on global foreign exchange markets. Brazilian soybeans, Saudi crude oil, a wire transfer between central banks in Jakarta and Johannesburg. Nearly all of it, no matter where it begins or ends, moves in one currency. The United States dollar, the product of 80 years of institutional trust, unmatched financial depth, and a network effect so powerful that even countries who resent the arrangement have found no escape.
And more developing nations, including some of the world's largest economies, decide to ditch the dollar in their bilateral trade.
But in 2026, a coalition stretching from the South China Sea to the Persian Gulf is no longer just complaining. They are building an alternative. And the most important thing about this challenge is the detail most people miss. It is not a revolution. It is something potentially far more dangerous, an evolution. Why does that word matter? Because the world is watching for the wrong kind of threat. A revolution is a dam bursting, dramatic, impossible to miss. But an evolution is the slow erosion of a riverbank. Each day, a single grain of sand disappears, no alarm sounds. And then, one morning, the river has moved. The landscape is different. That is the pressure on the dollar in 2026, not a crisis. A quiet, compounding repositioning.
We must protect the position of the American dollar as a pillar of monetary stability around the world.
So what keeps the dollar in place? Think of global trade as a city's water system, pipes carrying liquidity everywhere. The dollar's pipes are the widest, the most interconnected, the most reliable. You can trade dollar-denominated assets in staggering volumes at any hour without moving the price. No other currency comes close. That liquidity is not just an advantage, it is a moat. A fortress built from decades of accumulated infrastructure, clearinghouses in New York, settlement systems in London, pricing benchmarks embedded in every contract for oil, wheat, and semiconductors. But here is the paradox. The nations that depend most on this system have the strongest reason to escape it. Economists call it original sin, a condition inherited, not chosen. BRICS nations hold vast reserves of dollar-denominated debt. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates to cool inflation in Ohio, the cost of borrowing surges in Sao Paulo and Mumbai. These countries suffer, not for their own policy mistakes, but for exposure to a currency they cannot control. That is the motivation, not ideology, cold arithmetic. And yet, despite growing pressure, there has been no dramatic collapse. The dollar's share of global reserves has declined modestly, but the incumbent still stands. So what exactly are the challengers building? Start with the raw numbers. The BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, was born in 2009.
Stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, BRICS. So the BRICS summit is underway in Kazan and this is the 16th edition. The leaders first met in the year 2009, right?
By 2024, it had expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, and others. In 2026, the coalition crossed a remarkable threshold, measured by purchasing power parity, a universal shopping basket adjusting for what money actually buys. BRICS Plus now accounts for a larger share of global GDP than the G7. Read that again. More economic output than the United States, Japan, Germany, the UK, France, Italy, and Canada combined. But economic mass alone does not buy financial influence. You need infrastructure. The first pillar is institutional. The new development bank, alongside the contingent reserve arrangement, gives member states access to financing and emergency liquidity without the policy conditions attached to borrowing from the World Bank or the IMF. No austerity demands, just capital. The second pillar is technological. BRICS Pay, a digital settlement platform, is designed to route cross-border transactions entirely outside of SWIFT, the Belgium-based network through which most international transfers flow. When SWIFT was weaponized to cut off Russian banks in 2022, every nation that might one day face Western sanctions took notice. BRICS Pay is not a currency, it is a highway. The cars, rubles, rupees, renminbi remain unchanged. But the road is no longer American-built, and the tolls are no longer collected in dollars. China's digital currency electronic payment system enables direct, real-time settlement between trading partners without routing through New York. And here is the strategic subtlety most analysts miss. Rather than launching a shared BRICS currency, a technically daunting proposition, the coalition has chosen a simpler path. Increase the share of trade settled in national currencies. Each energy contract invoiced in renminbi. Each commodity deal settled in rupees. Each bilateral agreement that bypasses the dollar chips away, incrementally, grain by grain, at the structural. Demand keeping the dollar dominant. It is not regime change, it is erosion. So much for the strategy. What does the data actually show? Some of the evidence is striking. Indonesia's accession to BRICS Plus in 2025, alongside major Gulf energy exporters, gave the bloc a commanding footprint. Nearly half the world's population, a dominant share of global energy reserves, and control over critical commodity supply chains. New trade corridors between developing nations are expanding fast. More transactions are now denominated in the partners' own currencies than ever before. But we must be honest about the other side. This is not a monolith. China's GDP is more than 70 times Ethiopia's. India's geopolitical interests do not always align with Russia's. The Gulf states hedge, diversifying eastward while maintaining deep financial and military ties to the West. These divisions are not just political, they are technical. Scaling alternative payment systems from small bilateral pilots into a truly multilateral network demands technological standardization, regulatory harmonization, and political consensus this coalition has not yet demonstrated. And the most ambitious idea floated in BRICS circles, a single shared currency, remains the weakest part of the case. Europe spent decades building the euro, harmonizing fiscal policy, creating a central bank. The BRICS members are nowhere close to that level of integration. Different legal systems, different inflation rates, different levels of capital control. The dream of a unified currency is exactly that, a dream. But the erosion, that is real. So where does that leave us? The dollar will almost certainly remain the primary global reserve currency through the rest of this decade, probably well beyond. But the data does not describe stasis. Analysts call it cumulative pressure. Think of a Roman stone arch. No single stone threatens the structure, but each new one, a currency swap agreement here, a digital currency pilot there, a trade corridor steadily rerouted, shifts the weight. The arch does not collapse, but the forces change, and eventually it must be reinforced or redesigned. That is the difference between a dollar that is unchallenged and one that is merely dominant. The open questions are precise. Will BRICS Pay materially reduce the share of dollar-denominated global reserves by 2030? That depends on whether political will can survive the friction within such a diverse coalition. Which cities, Mumbai, Riyadh, Sao Paulo, Jakarta, will emerge as the financial hubs of a multipolar system? And perhaps most critically, will the United States respond by defending the dollar's role through policy reform? Or will it accelerate de-dollarization by wielding the currency as a weapon? The story of de-dollarization in 2026 is not the one headlines want to tell. No collapse, no dramatic rupture. Instead, something quieter, and perhaps more consequential. A growing number of nations, representing billions of people and trillions in economic output, have concluded that entrusting their entire economic fate to a single currency, controlled by a single country, is a risk they will no longer accept. The alternatives remain incomplete. The dollar's advantages are enormous, but the channels of commerce are beginning to branch. Through new institutions in Shanghai, digital ledgers in Beijing, bilateral agreements in New Delhi and Riyadh. Taken individually, these steps seem modest, but together they trace the early outline of a different financial world. Whether that world arrives in 5 years or 50, no one can say. But the direction is set, and in a system built on trust and momentum, direction may matter more than speed. The river is moving, not all at once, but grain by grain. If you found this valuable, like and subscribe. We break down the forces reshaping global finance, so you understand the shifts before they make headlines.